Okay, this is my video on the Second Amendment. A lot of people in this country have their opinion on the Second Amendment, what exactly it means, how exactly should it be interpreted, but I figure in order to properly address the Second Amendment, I have to perhaps, read it so we can actually understand what the words actually are. So luckily I have a little pocket constitution here I carry with me, and here we go. Amendment 2, right to bear arms. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now let me read that again, but this time addressing, commas. A well-regulated militia, comma, being necessary to the security of a free state, comma, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, comma, shall not be infringed, period. Alright, so you look at it that way, and a lot of people say, well, they're actually talking about the militia. They're saying that a militia is necessary for the security of a free state, and the militia needs to have guns. So if you're a militia member, you should have a gun. No, not really, because what happens is they would have said the right of the militia, members of the militia, regardless, whatever it is, to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. But they put a comma and put the right of the people to keep and bear arms, comma, shall not be infringed. All right, they added that whole separate two-part there so that it would be properly interpreted. The people need to have the arms, and it shall not be infringed. All right, shall not infringe the right of someone to own a firearm. I'm pretty sure that they would like to see people have a lot of weapons, and and in fact, if you actually read some of the letters from our founding fathers, it's funny because Thomas Jefferson was writing in one letter how he always used to walk with a rifle or a handgun or something, whatever he had. He said it's a good idea to keep your arm as your constant companion when you go out walking. He actually talked about even firearm sporting as actually something good to do, something healthy, a form of exercise. All right, so he carried a gun on him pretty much a lot. And you have even George Washington, I believe, said it is a characteristic of a free state or free society, whatever he said, to actually allow its people to own firearms. The Second Amendment is the Second Amendment for a reason. Now, a lot of people say it's the most important amendment. I believe the First Amendment is very, very important and addresses a lot. So that's why it was made the first. The Second Amendment was created in order to protect the Second Amendment, and pretty much from there on, all the other amendments. The Second Amendment is the only way you have to defend yourself. It is a characteristic of a free society to allow individuals to defend themselves. Thus, all right, it's important for someone to own an arm. All right, firearms can be used for many things. Unfortunately, people assume that a firearm is somehow going to be linked to violence. And yes, a lot of violent crimes are committed with firearms. But, I mean, it's the same thing as telling an obese person it's the fork that's making you fat. All right, it's just a tool. I tried explaining this one time to one of my friends in college. I said, years ago, we were walking around naked. We didn't even have clothes. All right, and we used our fists and our feet to kill people. We got into fights, violence. Then we started taking leaves and, furs from animals, and we started finding sticks and stones. Then we got a little more advanced. We started sewing fabrics. And then we started making swords. And nowadays we have advanced synthetic polymers and all these fancy outfits you can wear for all different climates on the face of the earth. And we also have firearms. It's just a progression of technology. I mean, people want to get rid of firearms to make the world safer. Well, in that aspect, why don't we get rid of cars? Because people get run over with cars. More people in this world are basically beaten to death than shot to death, so we should get rid of lakes. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And eventually, you have to come to the realization it's the human being that's pulling the trigger that has the problem. It's not the firearm. All right, and the funny thing is, you look at a lot of these gun-free zones, certain colleges and schools where it's like there's never going to be a shooting here because we don't allow guns here. But yet that's where all the mass shootings are, because everyone's a sitting duck. They're easy targets. I mean, places where there are no guns, there's a lot of gun crime. I mean, look at Washington, D.C. They had, the whole gun ban on pistols and handguns. And when that happened, crime related to violence and also handguns went up. And after they've, repealed the ban, believe it or not, the violent crime associated with handguns actually decreased slightly. It's unbelievable. I mean, the thing is that, people who have a way of defending themselves are a threat to a criminal. I mean, let me just explain it this way. People say if we get rid of all guns, there's not going to be any more shootings. People aren't going to kill each other. We already have laws on drugs, but yet drugs are still in our society. And just think about it this way. A criminal, by definition, is someone who commits crimes by breaking laws. What makes you think they're going to listen to a gun law? They're going to get guns regardless. There already is a black market. There's guns all around the world. You can't get rid of them, even if you tried. And a lot of people who have been, advocates of, eliminating guns, they won't make any names, but they actually hire armed security staff to watch them and their children. So as they're anti-gun, they think it's okay for a specially, trained security guard to carry a firearm. I mean, that's a little bit of a hypocrite. All right, and Thomas Jefferson said, if man cannot be left to govern himself, how can he be governed by another man? People assume that if you give someone in a certain authority a firearm, you're going to have a way to protect yourself. They know better than you. They're going to take care of you. That's not really the case, because as we know, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. You've basically created now a defenseless victim by eliminating the right to bear arms. I mean, the people who are following gun laws as they stand tend not to be the ones committing all these crimes. These are the ones who are doing things illegally and want a way to defend themselves. You have a divine right to defend yourself. Okay, and at a certain point, I mean, that's what it is. It's just morality. You need to have a way to defend yourself. And a firearm is one of those technologies to do so. What else can I say here? I talked about gun bans, all right, how crime went up. All right, it's just, you look at every society that's basically turned into a totalitarian state, one of their initial priorities was to disarm the public, because it's the only way for them to defend themselves. I mean, the First Amendment is always going to be threatened. So if you have a Second Amendment, when they start attacking you, you have a way to defend yourself. All right, and I believe that, the Second Amendment was created not just to ward off an invading army, because let's be honest here, if every citizen of a country was armed to the teeth, you can't invade them. You wouldn't be able to win that war. But also, if the government that controls a group of people becomes tyrannical and starts overstepping its boundaries, how are the people left to defend themselves if they don't have any arms themselves? All right, so I'm actually a pretty strong advocate for the Second Amendment. You just need to have a way to defend yourself. And in a free society, we usually let people do what they want and buy what they want. All right, I know there's probably a lot of other arguments with the Second Amendment I'm not hitting on. Pro and against. This is basically a pro video. But, I think I'll leave it at that for now. And if anything, I'll just add a few more video responses to it. Okay, thank you.